What if the biggest mistake of your life isn't failure, losing money, or ending up alone, but saying, I do? What if the very thing you've been told will save you? Marriage is actually the one thing that will destroy you. And what if Nietzsche was right when he called marriage the dumbest decision a person can ever make? Stop for a second and really sit with that. Your entire life, you've been told marriage is the prize. Love, family, stability, respect. Without it, you're incomplete. But Nietzsche didn't buy this story. He believed marriage wasn't a path to happiness. It was a cage. And once you step inside, you don't just lose your freedom, you lose yourself. Here's the first uncomfortable truth. People don't marry because of love. They marry because of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being left behind. Fear of being judged. The wedding ring isn't proof of love. It's proof of surrender to society's script. Second, marriage doesn't protect happiness. It drains it. Passion fades into routine. Freedom collapses into obligation. What started as desire becomes paperwork, duty, and silent resentment. And third, when you marry for the wrong reasons, you're not just risking heartbreak. You're betraying your own individuality. You're burying your greatest potential under the weight of someone else's expectations. Nietzsche thought that was worse than death because it meant you were alive, but no longer truly living. By the end of this video, you'll see why Nietzsche's warning about marriage wasn't just about relationships. It was about the deepest lie society feeds you, about meaning, freedom, and your destiny. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. If Nietzsche was right, then marriage isn't just a mistake. It's a gamble with everything you are. And here's the part that should make you stop and listen. The price of losing that gamble isn't measured in money or heartbreak. It's measured in wasted years, in buried potential, in a life that could have been yours, but never was. Picture this. You think you're choosing love, but what you're really choosing is a contract. You think you're building freedom, but what you're really building is a cage. You think you're gaining stability, but what you're really gaining is permission to stop growing. That's why Nietzsche called marriage the most dangerous decision, because the risk hides in plain sight. Everyone claps when you sign away your freedom, but nobody tells you what it costs. And the cost is devastating. It's the slow death of individuality, the quiet suffocation of passion, the haunting realization that the person you've become isn't the person you were meant to be. Nietzsche saw this not as a small personal error, but as the greatest betrayal you could commit against yourself. So ask yourself, is the comfort of belonging worth the destruction of your potential? Is the approval of society worth the loss of your freedom? Or is Nietzsche right that by rushing into marriage, you don't just lose love, you lose life itself? Imagine two people. The first one follows the script perfectly. They meet someone, settle down, and tie the knot. Their wedding photos are flawless. Their parents beam with pride. Their friends say, "You've made it." From the outside, it looks like a success story. But behind closed doors, the fire has already started to fade. The conversations get shorter. The routines get longer. Passion is slowly replaced with obligation. They tell themselves this is what maturity looks like. But deep down, they feel something slipping away. Now look at the second person. They don't settle. They don't rush. They don't marry just because everyone else is doing it. To society, they look reckless, maybe even irresponsible. When are you going to grow up? People ask. But here's the twist Nietzsche wanted you to see. The one who looks unstable is actually free. Free to grow, free to change, free to live without the silent contract of conformity. So who is really winning here? The one praised by society but secretly suffocating? Or the one criticized by society but still alive inside? Nietzsche believed the answer was obvious. Marriage doesn't guarantee happiness. It guarantees limits. And the tragedy is that most people won't realize this until it's too late. Nietzsche didn't hate love. He hated the way society turned love into a prison. To him, marriage wasn't the celebration of love. It was the slow burial of it. He once warned that a marriage could only succeed if both partners had chosen wisely, not out of fear or tradition, but because they could imagine sharing a long, unending conversation together. Think about that. Not beauty, not wealth, not social approval. A conversation. Because Nietzsche knew what most people refuse to admit. Passion burns bright, but it doesn't last. And when it fades, what you're left with is either a partnership of equals or a cage of obligations. But here's the problem. Most people don't choose their partner with that wisdom. They choose them because of pressure, timing, or the desperate fear of being alone. alone. They don't marry for truth. They marry for comfort. And Nietzsche saw that as a fatal error. For him, marriage was the enemy of the individual's highest calling, self-overcoming. How can you become your truest self when you're locked into vows that demand you never change? How can you grow when every transformation risks breaking the fragile bond you've tied yourself into? Marriage, Nietzsche thought, traps people in a permanent contradiction, the longing for freedom chained to the illusion of safety. Most people don't marry out of strength. They marry out of fear. Fear of ending up alone, fear of being judged, fear of waking up one day without someone beside them. And that fear is dressed up in white gowns, tuxedos, and rings. This is the shadow of marriage, the side nobody dares to say out loud. It isn't love holding two people together. It's desperation. It's the quiet voice whispering, "At least I won't be alone." But here's the nightmare Nietzsche saw. When you marry out of fear, you don't escape loneliness. You create a new kind of loneliness. It's the loneliness of sitting across from someone you swore to love forever and realizing they don't really see you. It's lying in the same bed, feeling miles apart. It's waking up every morning with the sinking feeling that you traded the possibility of a real life for the safety of a fake one. That is the shadow, the betrayal that hides inside the illusion of stability. Nietzsche believed this was worse than solitude, because solitude, at least, can force you to grow. But the loneliness inside marriage, that's paralysis. It looks like you've escaped emptiness, but in reality, you've buried your true self under obligations and routines. And once that happens, it's not just love that dies, it's you. Nietzsche didn't warn against marriage from the sidelines. He lived it, he felt it, and he walked away from it. There was one woman who captured his heart, Lou Salomé, brilliant, unconventional, a mind as wild as his own. Nietzsche loved her enough to propose twice, and twice she said no. Most men would have bent, most men would have begged, compromised, settled just to hold on. But Nietzsche refused. He realized what marriage would demand of him. Not love, but conformity. Not passion, but possession. And for him, that was worse than losing her altogether. His friends mocked him. Society whispered, pathetic, unmarried, a failure as a man. But Nietzsche chose something far more brutal than acceptance. He chose solitude. He chose to be hated, misunderstood, dismissed. Why? Because he would rather walk alone in truth than be chained by an illusion of love. And that choice gave him everything. Out of his solitude came the ideas that still burn today, the will to power, eternal recurrence, the Übermensch. These weren't born from a cozy home and domestic comfort. They came from fire, from pain, from refusing to live the way everyone else lived. Ask yourself, would you be strong enough to make the same choice? Could you walk away from comfort, from approval, from the life that makes everyone else clap? If it meant saving your soul, Nietzsche could. And that's why his words still haunt us. Maybe you're starting to wonder if Nietzsche was right. Maybe you've already felt it in your own life. The signs are there, but most people ignore them until it's too late. The first sign, you believe marriage will complete you. Somewhere deep down, you're convinced that without another person, you're broken. This is the trap, because if you don't feel whole now, a ring won't fix it. All it does is cover up the emptiness for a while until it comes roaring back. The second sign, you fear being alone more than you fear being in the wrong relationship. So you settle. You accept good enough. You convince yourself stability matters more than truth. But here's Nietzsche's warning. The fear of loneliness is far more dangerous than loneliness itself, because loneliness pushes you inward to discover who you are. Settling keeps you chained to a life that isn't yours. The third sign, you measure your worth by whether you fit society's timeline. Everyone else is getting engaged, posting photos, building families, and you start to wonder, am I falling behind? That's the exact pressure Nietzsche wanted you to resist, because once you surrender to the herd, you're no longer living your life. You're just repeating theirs. If any of these hit you, pay attention. They're not random. They're signals. Nietzsche would say they're proof you're at risk of making the dumbest decision of your life. Not because marriage itself is evil, but because marrying for the wrong reasons is the fastest way to betray yourself. Nietzsche wasn't telling you to give up on love. He was telling you to stop letting love chain you. His advice was as radical then as it is now. First, become dangerous on your own. Become whole, become powerful, become free before you even think about binding your life to someone else. Because if you walk into marriage half-formed, Marriage will finish the job for you, and it won't shape you into your highest self. It will shape you into what society wants. Nietzsche believed real love should feel like fire meeting fire. Two strong individuals colliding, challenging, expanding each other, not two scared people clinging together out of fear. If your relationship makes you smaller, quieter, safer, it isn't love, it's conformity. And here's the rebellion Nietzsche demanded. Stop apologizing for refusing to settle. Stop rushing to meet deadlines that don't belong to you. Stop believing that love means sacrifice. Love, to Nietzsche, wasn't about losing yourself. It was about becoming so much yourself that another strong soul can't help but be drawn to you. So his alternative is brutal but freeing. Don't marry out of weakness. Don't marry out of fear. Don't marry because the world tells you it's time. If you ever do marry, let it be because your overflowing strength demands someone who can stand beside it. Anything less is slavery. So here's the truth Nietzsche wanted to burn into your mind. Marriage isn't just a personal choice. It's a test of whether you're strong enough to live as yourself or weak enough to surrender that self for approval. Most people fail the test. They trade freedom for security. They call it love, but it's really fear. They call it stability, but it's really stagnation. And they spend the rest of their lives convincing themselves the cage they built is a home. Nietzsche believed that was the greatest tragedy of all. Not death, but a life unlived. But there's another path, the path of refusing to betray yourself, the path of love that comes not from desperation, but from strength, the path where you don't shrink to fit into someone else's world, but expand together into something larger than either of you could have imagined alone. That's why Nietzsche said marriage, done blindly, is the dumbest thing you can do. Not because love is foolish, but because surrendering your individuality is. And once you see this, you can never go back to the illusion. So the question is no longer, should I get married? The real question is, am I brave enough to choose freedom over fear? Am I strong enough to choose truth over tradition? Am I willing to live for myself, even if it means standing alone? Because Nietzsche's warning is brutal but liberating. Better to walk alone in truth than to live a lifetime in a cage. Decision a person can make, or do you still believe it's the key to love and happiness? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your story. What's the biggest reason you've questioned marriage, or the biggest fear that pushes you toward it? And if this video shook something in you, if it made you question what society has always told you is normal, then subscribe and hit the notification bell, because this is only the beginning. We're going deeper into the truths philosophers like Nietzsche, Jung, and Schopenhauer revealed. The truths society doesn't want you to hear. Your life doesn't have to follow the script. The choice is yours.